everybody from across the pond over here in England. Just want to give a shout out to you all to first off say congratulations, great job with your first paper. That's a big hurdle. We're going to have many more like that, and it's just going to continue to get better. So wherever you're at, my goal for each paper is to just have you get a little bit better, so by the time you get at the end of this class, you have a good concrete look of academic writing. And remember that there's two types of writing we're doing. We're doing the discussions, which is very free-flowing, really getting your ideas. That's where I want those personal statements of what you're really feeling and how you're taking in this material. And that's the discussions. But then these papers are taking away that personal pronouns, like the I's and all that, and using your same thoughts, arguing your ideas, but in an academic way. And that's a very powerful tool. Doing it correctly is an amazing, powerful tool that you can use for your whole life. It's going to help you academically, but it also gives you good credibility in your writing as you go on from academia into the world and other fields. So that's why we're doing this. That's why it's pretty writing intensive, really. But also because we don't have a classroom, and I read everything. That's why it takes me a while to grade some stuff, because I read everything that all 70 students in this class say, and it means a lot to me. And when you put in a lot of effort, it means a lot to me. I mean, it takes me a little longer, but it's for me to understand and see your worldview of how you're taking in this information. So just a shout out to you all for doing a great job first paper. Continue to be communicative with me if there's any issues or concerns. So some of you have been able to take advantage of that, and I continue to ask all of you to do so. So for this week and for next week, we're going in a different direction. So you had your first awesome movie that I'm so glad some of you liked with City Lights, Charlie Chaplin. So many other good movies that he did as well. You might want to check out. But and Casablanca, you finished Casablanca. Hopefully you're starting to write the paper. Remember, 3 pages, whatever it takes for you to get to that 3 pages, and not changing the format or anything. But using lots of examples from the movie. It's going to be a lot easier probably to write, because you could bring in scenes, you could bring in some dialogue, you could really elaborate on what's happening in the time period that this movie's happening. So writing Casablanca will be a lot of fun. And however you write that, there's so many ways you can, and the prompt is very clear of you really go in a direction that's interesting to you. But now we're moving forward past sort of historically from the 20s and the 30s, the Depression, World War II in the 40s, and then post-World War II in the United States, a new phenomenon, the Cold War, takes root, doesn't it? And there's this new anxiety between the West and the Eastern Bloc, the Communist Bloc. And that penetrates into movies. With The Blacklist that you're going to read about this week, but also you see it largely in Western movies, the popular Western movies, Cowboys and Indians, and you see the values, again, looking at American values portrayed in the Wild West and what it means to be a rugged, powerful cowboy. So masculinity as well coming into all this as well. But then also the othering, the difference, the sort of the communist style of the collective living of the Native American, but also sort of creating a stereotype of that we're going to look at next week with a fantastic documentary, Real Engine. So you'll have the link for that. But this first week looking at sort of the communist side, looking at the how Hollywood was affected with the blacklisting, people that we've already looked at, Charlie Chaplin being a victim of this. Also, he liked younger women, which is a problem, but he was also a victim of the blacklisting, being associated with the Communist Party and having to leave the United States for many decades before coming back. Humphrey Bogart, the main character in Casablanca, he speaks up against all that's going on in Hollywood and around the country with the blacklisting. So, and then you have, you can't think about Westerns without John Wayne. And John Wayne playing a huge role. We do now know how much of a major role he really played in that time, where you couldn't, there's documentaries, there's books about it, where you couldn't get a job in Hollywood without his permission and the people, especially if you were even remotely thought of being communist. So that's one side. Then you have on the other side, you have people like Stanley Kubrick. You have some other people starting to come out in Hollywood who are openly kind of communist, openly showing this stuff. And that has this big fight in the 50s and 60s. And then you see a change with the 60s, the late 60s and into the 70s. And that's what we're going to get to later with New Hollywood. But that right now we're looking at this conflict of the Cold War and how much it really affects Hollywood, and specifically cowboy movies, Westerns. Next week we're going to look at a different way, and we're looking at the Native American portrayal, how Hollywood portrays identity, specifically the identity of Native American. So the stereotypes that you think of when you think of an Indian, through mascots of teams, through depictions in movies and shows. We're all going to address that and look at that through a pretty interesting documentary, Real Engine. That's going to be the focus. So those are the two things we're going to get into for this week and next. Continue to communicate with me. Again, I just want to end this video by encouraging you that you're doing a great job. Just showing up week after week, knowing that the discussions are going to be due pretty much on a Monday. That gives you the whole week and the weekend to get through the material. There's plenty of time to do stuff, plenty of time to do these papers. Casablanca's papers coming up, so spend some good quality time writing that. Feel free to discuss with your small groups if it's helpful. Feel free to discuss with me if you have questions. But just rock that stuff, and you're doing a great job. We're halfway through almost. Good luck, and have a fantastic rest of this week, and we'll be in touch. Enjoy this week and next. Bye-bye.
Wow.